Hey y'all, it's Summer from Hammond's Nest, and I have another pretty nifty project for y'all. So, I picked up these plastic bells while out on another dollar store trip, and I thought I wanted to give them a makeover to see if I could make them look kind of farmhousey, just kind of vintage looking. And so, here is my process. What you're seeing me do right now is I'm putting on a coat of chalk paint. I'm using Dixie Belle's color driftwood for this, and I'm mostly giving it's like a light gray, and I'm mostly doing this because I want to make sure the adhesion is really well for the metallic paints I'm going to use. So I'm getting that coated on the inside and the outside of the bell. And then once that dries, you're going to see me, I'm going to pull out two different shades of folk art metallic paint. One is called sterling silver and the other is called gunmetal gray. So that's going to be the next step that you see me pull out. And what I'm really going for here as I'm layering these paints is, so there's my paints, my metallic paints. What I'm going for here is kind of a galvanized look. And then we're going to use a really, really fun technique that I have seen out in the crafting world, and I'm so excited to try it. And man, did it turn out pretty awesome. So I already did one of these bells just to make sure that it was what I had in my head. And so I can't wait for you to see the results. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take the sterling silver metallic by Folk Art, and I'm putting on one layer. Now acrylics, they don't dry as fast, so you can actually do this one coat before you do your blending. And then I'm taking a little bit of that gunmetal gray, and I'm doing a technique that's just called wet blending. So it's basically blending with the sterling silver color while it's still wet. And you don't really need to overthink this process because you're really just kind of wanting to look like galvanized metal. And metals, especially as they age a little bit, will have like these variations of color. So should be pretty easy. And just to make it look nice, my whole goal with this is just to make it look nice from all angles, inside and out. And so I'm going to do the same thing to the inside of the bell. One coat of sterling silver and then wet blending in some of that gunmetal gray. So that's what I'm doing here. Now, once this process is done, your next step is going to be what I think is the whole magic behind this cute project. Now, yeah, you could probably go out and buy some metal bells or something that looks maybe kind of similar to this, but no fun in that, right? So here's the magic: ground cinnamon and Mod Podge. If you didn't know, it creates a faux rust look. And when I tell you it looks pretty authentic, it's really amazing. So what you see me doing here, I put a little bit of Mod Podge on a plate. And like I said, this is another don't overthink it step. But just kind of where you would see some rust, you're going to put some Mod Podge, and then you're going to sprinkle your cinnamon on it. And so it's sticking. And then I found that it works the best to have like two plates, and you're kind of dusting it off. You've probably seen this technique kind of maybe when people Mod Podge on glitter and things like that. You're doing the same thing, except you're just using cinnamon. And let me tell you, it smells pretty good in my studio too, because it smells like I've been baking something. So I'm in love with this technique. This will not be the last time you see it from me. And so wait till you see how it all comes together whenever we get it all sealed. So I'm just working here to make sure I've got some good spots of rust. I'm definitely touching down on the bottom ring and kind of getting it to stick. And then I'm trying not to waste any cinnamon, so that's why I'm working back and forth on plates, and you're seeing me dump it from one to the other. Now, grab a dry brush for this process, and once the Mod Podge has had just a few minutes to sit and that cinnamon is stuck to it, you're going to kind of dust it, sort of like you'd be dusting fossils. You're just kind of lightly dusting off the excess cinnamon that's stuck or is trying to just kind of sit there on your silver galvanized looking bell. So you'll want to dust all that extra stuff off. And once you're kind of happy with that, your next step is going to be to just set it to the side, and you can let it dry for a sec. You can see me, I'm just making sure it's cleaned up. Okay, now I also picked this bell up. I think they're like 6 to a package at the Dollar Tree, these silver bells. And that's where I got the big bell too that we're working on. And so I picked these up at the same time. not really know what I was going to use them for, but they seemed to be pretty perfect for this project. So I just gave it the same rusty treatment. You may have a rusty bell that's already lying around, but I didn't. I only had silver and gold. So I'm just giving it the cinnamon treatment. So putting the Mod Podge on there and then dusting on the cinnamon. Now, once your Mod Podge has had a few minutes to set up, you're going to seal all that in. So you're going to grab the Mod Podge again and you're just going to coat it on there liberally. It's going to look kind of frosty like this, but it will dry clear. Now, I'm using a matte version of Mod Podge, and I believe that's what most people use, but just if you don't happen to have any Mod Podge on hand and you're going out to grab some, just make sure there's so many different kinds of formulas of Mod Podge, and some of them come with a different sheen, like gloss or like satin and things like that. So just decide what sheen you want your bell to have. I ended up really liking it with the flat, so it kind of had that rustic look. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing to my bell because I'm going to seal it in. Now, I will tell you one thing that happened while I was doing the bell is because I was shaking the cinnamon on it and everything, it really doesn't jingle like it did before. That's okay with me. I'm not really like picking these up and using them as bells or anything. It's the whole decorative element. If you see that little hand that just grabbed me, that's my little girl. She came to give me a hug while I was recording this video. But anyway, I just wanted it to when you could see underneath the bell that it had that nice rustic charm. And so that's why I went through the trouble of rusting my bell. But if you had a rusty bell already on hand, you know, you could tie that on the inside. And then I'm just making sure, because I love to know that my hard work, yes, this is a plastic bell, but it looks so beautiful. And I want to make sure that all the finishes that I work so hard on are sealed. So I'll put another coat of Mod Podge in the inside. Next, we're going to get that bell tied up in there, and you see me wrapping a piece of tape on the end of my rope because kind of treating it like a shoestring because it's a lot easier to thread through tiny holes. Now, this plastic bell just happens to have several holes going on because remember, they had greenery and a bow on top that we got rid of. And so it's making it pretty easy for me to string that bell in there. So you're just kind of seeing me do that. And I'm going to decide about how high I want the bell to ride, the jingle bell to ride inside the big bell. And then I'm kind of just giving it a loose knot because I'm wanting to put a little glue to stop that. Otherwise, whenever you use this string to go hang your bell, it'll pull your jingle bell up further inside the bell, and you wouldn't want that. So I'm just kind of getting it in place. And that's what you see me doing here. Then I'm just going to unloosen that little loose knot that I had at the top. And then the next thing that I'm going to pull out is some cute little package of snowflakes that I picked up at Hobby Lobby a while back. I just wanted to have them on hand for Christmas crafting, winter crafting. And so I painted a couple white, just with some white chalk paint. I used Cotton by Dixie Belle. And then I'm just making like a teeny tiny little, I mean, if you want to call it a garland. But what I'm doing is I'm using the knots inside to hold in the snowflake. And then I'm tying it around to figure out how low I want the snowflake to hang. And then when I'm happy with the one snowflake, then I'm going to use the other part of the string to string through a hole there, figure out exactly where I want it to hang, and then tie 2 little knots to hold it. So the knots are what is holding in the snowflakes. And then kind of once you get that all set, you can trim up the excess rope or twine and snip it off, and then it's good to go. Now, next, you may need some wire cutters depending on what kind of floral you use. I didn't. Mine just popped right off. So then when I have the couple pieces that I know that I want to use to embellish the top, I'm going to try to lay them out, figure out what's the best places to put hot glue daubs, and just depending on what you use, you may not have to use any hot glue. You may be able to like tie it around the top or something, but this is just what I had on hand, and I love the flocked greenery. I think it adds a nice little wintry touch, especially because I'm using the snowflakes on the front, and I just really like the way this all coming together. So I'm going to use my hot glue. As you see, I put a couple daub on the side. It's not so much for mine that I'm gluing at the top as I am this side to make sure that it's not going anywhere. But like I said, whatever you end up using, just figure out the best way to let it hang. And my whole goal here is that this bell looks cute from all angles, all around, front and back, inside and out, and that's what I'm trying to do here. Now, I picked up this really cute buffalo check ribbon from Walmart, and you see me here cutting 4 strips 1 foot long, and then a tiny little strip about 2 inches long. And I'm going to show you a really beautiful bow, okay? Hang with me. You may be able to use this bow on lots of other things. So, okay, so you're going to end up using 3 of the strips like this. You're going to lap it to where you find the center. Set that to the side. I do recommend using wire for this because you can shape it and make it look so pretty. So you'll need to have 3 pieces that are folded, brought to the middle, barely overlapped, and folded and squinched and pinched in the middle. Now, hold that in your hand, just kind of go back and forth, making a crisscross, keeping your center point, and then use that other strip that's actually the same length, 1 foot for this project. You can make this with any length, and you're putting it on the back, and then taking a small piece of twine, wire, rope. And what you're seeing me here, I'm tying a double knot, and this is the back that you see right now. And I'm just going to kind of pull it really tight and double knot it. And don't snip off that extra string just yet because you're going to need that to tie onto your bell. So next, take that little tiny strip, and I do this as a nice finishing centerpiece, and because it's covering up where the string was. So just wrap that pretty tight around and put your little dobs of glue. Hold down, let it get in place. Being sure not to glue your twine in place because you need your twine or wire or whatever to attach it to your bell. So you see me here, I'm just pulling that tight, and then I've got a little bit hanging over, so that's what I'm snipping off. It's just a little bit of that centerpiece that was a little bit too long. Okay, then after that, you can see there's the back, and there's your string. And then there's the front, and then you just kind of use your fingers to shape it and start pulling it out, and man, it is so pretty. The cool thing about this technique, and then I'm angling the ends of the bows, the tails of the bow, to give you a little tail. The cool thing about that bow technique is you can use it, make any size with any size ribbon. You can add in, I use just 3 pieces to make the bulk of the bow, but you could do more. You could just do 2. You know, really, the possibilities are endless. So I'm using that technique again to wrap tape on the end of that string because I needed to get it through a tiny place. And that's all I'm doing. I'm just attaching this ribbon to the top. I absolutely love the way this looks. It's so beautiful. The last part is for you just to double knot there on top, and then I'm making a twist knot for hanging and cutting off the excess. So, like I said, I'd actually made one of these before I filmed this video, and so I knew that it was going to be so fun to share with y'all. Finishing touch there, you see me using the end of a paintbrush just to shape my wire tails of my ribbon. So I'm sure whatever you choose, if you choose to try this project out, then you can find so many beautiful things to embellish. But see, looks good in the front, the back, and you can see the bells inside. Just absolutely gorgeous to me. And can you believe it was a plastic Dollar Tree bell that we have completely transformed? And I think from the practical purpose, I mean, the lighter bells would be easier for hanging and decorating. So y'all have a Merry Christmas. Thanks for hanging out with me. Continue following Hammond's Nest for more ideas just like this one. Bye, y'all.